It's been 10 months, nearly 11 months since the first episode of this podcast came out, so it's kind of ridiculous to do an episode 2 so far down the line. I mean, it's a year between episodes, but that's how we roll on Trek on the Tube. Welcome back to Trek Chat, a podcast where a bunch of friends talk about Star Trek, all things related. I know everyone's hype about Star Trek Picard and Picard's coming out and what have you, but we're going to be talking about something else because there's more things happening on the movie front. Joining me today is Starfleet Boy.
Hello.
And Boatrek.
Hello, how are you?
Well, good. I can. I'll be linking their channels in the description, so you can go check them out if you want. They have some awesome channels. They're awesome people. I love working with them, and I love having them as friends. And today we're going to be talking about essentially Noah Hawley, or Noah Hawley. Is that how you say it?
I think it's.
I have no idea.
I think it's more like Holly.
Hawley.
Howley.
Maybe it's like Halle, like Halle Berry.
No, like
No.
like Holly, like Holly.
Hawley.
No, not like that, but you know what I mean.
Well, big boy Noah.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Holly.
Hawley.
Noah Hawley.
Yeah, it's HAW, right? Like hee haw.
Yeah.
He Holly.
That's it. Trick on the Tube always presents quality content. It's a 30-minute discussion on how to pronounce the dude's name.
I hope Noah Hawley is listening, so he's pleased that we say his name correctly. Or we could be getting it wrong because he can pronounce it however he wants.
I think I heard him introduced in an interview like with that pronunciation.
That's what I do. That's one of, I think everyone's secret is we just go check out interviews of people and see how people pronounce their names.
That's how I figured out how Rene Auberjonois.
Aubergenois.
Aubergenois. Oh, well, Sean said it better. But
I used to call him...
said it with an accent.
I used to call him Rene Auberjonas.
Auberjonas?
I did that when I was little, too. I did the same thing. That's so funny.
Oh, my goodness. May he rest in peace. Yeah, so Noah Hawley is essentially in the talks with, I was going to say Paramount. Is it still Paramount? It's Viacom CBS now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is
Paramount.
Paramount.
Still a separate entity?
No, Paramount is under
Viacom CBS umbrella.
Yeah.
But it still is Paramount Studios. All right, so Noah Hawley is in talks with Paramount to create his own film. It would seem like the Kelvin timeline is pretty much dead at this point because we have just directors kind of lining up and then leaving. So what do you guys think that, like, what are we gonna get? Have you guys seen Legion? Have you guys seen Fargo? Are you guys fans of this guy?
I watched the first season of Fargo, but I'm very interested in the fourth season with Chris Rock. I watched the trailer and I'm like, if this is the guy that's gonna be doing Trek, then just by the trailer alone, I was very impressed. So I'm excited.
I had no idea that he was behind Legion or any of... I don't really know him very well from his credentials on IMDb, but I do find it interesting that he's like... He also does the soundtrack as well, so he's a musician, a director, and a writer. So he'd make an interesting showrunner just from, the kinds of things he does. Just on paper, he looks interesting to me. He also produces.
Yeah, well, he's very intriguing in the way. Interestingly, Jeff Russo, which currently works on, he's working on Picard, isn't he? And he works on Discovery. He's the composer for Fargo as well. So we're getting people from Fargo over to Star Trek now. But Noah Hawley, he actually sung one of the songs even that they put in Fargo, and he directs a few of the episodes, and he's very involved with it.
Yeah,
neat.
Go ahead.
No, I just said neat.
Oh.
It's just my reaction to Sean.
No, I think this guy is going to be very good for Trek because he gave an example to the Hollywood Reporter of the kind of Trek spirit he wants to see in the movies again. and he said, "It's William Shatner putting on his reading glasses and lowering Khan's shield."
Oh, I love that. I saw that somewhere. That was a great thing.
Which costs like $9.50. There's no big action sequences. He's just more clever. There's something really uplifting about that feeling. I went to Paramount and just had my own ideas for what I wanted to do with it. So that's the direction that I'm going in. It's still very early days, so I can't really be more specific, but it's going to be different. And he's also hinted that it's going to be a new cast, it's going to be a new story. It's going to be not, I don't know, like I don't want to say reboot or anything. It's just a new story, whatever timeline that's set in. Who knows? But
that's what I want to know, right?
Yeah.
So the guy's going to do new characters, because he says I don't know if it's going to be new cast, but he says generally new characters often involve new casts. So if he does that, is this like if we can talk about spin-offs here, but is he doing a spin-off to the Kelvin timelines, like new characters but still in this Kelvin timeline that Paramount have? Or now that it's all kind of under the Viacom CBS umbrella, would he be able to do something in kind of the Prime timeline that follows the the shows that are going on, even if it's self-contained?
I'm 99% sure that we will never see another Star Trek film set in the Kelvin timeline. I think at this point they just know better. And the fact that a Bad Robot doesn't seem to be involved. JJ is like going to Warner Brothers. He has like a lot of other things he's going to do. I don't think he's going to be involved in Star Trek in any significant way from now on.
He's going to do 10 Cloverfield movies.
No, well, he's going to... No, he's not. I don't think he's ever going to go back to that.
He's just going to patch together. Every few years, he'll find a sci-fi movie that no one cares about, and he'll slap the Cloverfield name on it. And put it out as part of the franchise.
I think PJ is actually on to something. Just from a personal perspective, like, I really don't mind if they retire the Kelvin timeline. I personally, the only part I kind of take a little pause about is that I really wish, while we still have like these amazing performers around, that we continue in the film world. I know this probably, we're probably past this now, but just continue with like the DS9 cast, the Voyager cast, maybe the Enterprise cast. Like, if you're gonna do these like interesting one-off movies, why not continue the story? There's so much and so many people that love those stories and would love to see them on cinema. Like, I know it's Voyager's 25th anniversary. It would be neat. I mean, like, if you're gonna pour resources into a Star Trek film, like, it's great to have like these experimental films that go off into new directions. Like, I definitely want Star Trek to reach that potential or that point, but I also would love to just keep going on the journey that we already have.
Yeah, well, I've never heard anyone push so much for a Voyager movie, but like a Deep Space Nine movie is something that many, many fans have talked about for a long, long time. I think people were a bit sour because, well, the TNG got their movies, and then like a lot of people were like, instead of giving us Nemesis or something, or you should have gone for a full-blown, maybe all of them together kind of movie. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and TNG, put them all together, because you get like a Captain Janeway cameo.
Yeah, you get everything.
It's not too,
Well, that's interesting, because he says that he was asked if the film would involve a new cast, and he said, "Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's early days, so I don't know, but new characters often involve new cast." I know this. I don't want to be a downer about like the hopes for TNG cameos and Deep Space Nine stuff, but I would almost prefer a completely brand new ship that we've never seen before, set in whatever time period. I don't even care, just as long as it's not in the Kelvin timeline, and cast really great actors.
I think that's the best choice, actually, because as a Star Trek fan, well, us three, like, we're gonna go and see it because it's a Star Trek movie, right? If he puts it in the prime timeline, it's a Star Trek movie. It's its own story, but it has completely new characters. It has big actors or actors that are kind of making a name for themselves currently. That will attract a lot of non-Trekkies and a lot of people that don't necessarily know too much about Star Trek. Because even if you can tell anyone, like someone that doesn't want to watch Picard because, you know, it involves knowing too much about TNG or whatever, even if you tell them, don't worry, I'm sure they made this show, you know, understandable and approachable from anyone, it will put off some people because there's so much Star Trek out there. I'm pretty sure if you make it self-contained and don't tie it into anything, it will attract a larger audience.
Wouldn't it be cool if it was set in the 2360s? Or
the missing time period.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the 2360s was like 10 years before TNG, maybe. Was it? I don't know.
Well,
Right, but I think actually, I don't know them off the top of my head.
TNG started in 2363, I think.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the 2290s, I think it was, where there's like the Enterprise C or something in it that we never really saw.
Yeah.
It says that Star Trek, the animated series, takes place from 2269. Oh wait, here we go. Next Generation 2364 to 2370.
I was 1 year off. But yeah.
So you want it set during that time period?
No, I mean, I think it would be interesting if on the television side now with Picard, we already have them dealing with post, Nemesis stuff. And if you want a self-contained story with a new cast and a ship we haven't seen before on their own little adventure, I think it would be kind of cool to set it Next Generation kind of time period, or maybe like right after or during the Dominion the Dominion War, even maybe.
You're running into that issue that people will have where the visual continuity may not match up, and then everyone will be up in arms about like, oh yeah, this is not the right thing for this time period, which we all do, depending on what we like about that time period, So
well, considering
so it's like, in my opinion, it's just better to like keep going forward. Like Star Trek doesn't really need to look back, except for like
Well,
it's delicate, isn't it? Because now that Picard's coming out, you don't really know what direction Picard's coming out, and you don't want to put out a movie that in some way has to kind of obligate Picard to adjust themselves.
Yeah.
Because if you do say, oh, let's do Klingons and Cardassians in this movie, sits like post Nemesis, so kind of post Picard or around the Picard time period. It obligates Picard then to I mean, they're under no obligation, of course, but I mean, from our perspective, it kind of gives us the want that they would make those Cardassians or those Klingons coherent to the ones that we just saw in the movie.
And they've made it clear that for the foreseeable future, there will be no connection between the film and TV stuff.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Because they have so much going on with the TV stuff, that's enough to keep track of. But like I said, Noah Hawley is such a hardcore, he's like a true Trek fan, lifelong. Like, this is his dream. And I think if he was to helm a movie set like, Next Generation period or whenever, I think he would actually probably be more faithful than most have been in the past. I mean, Alex Kurtzman is not going to have any control of it. Him and Alex Kurtzman have talked to each other about it, but Alex Kurtzman's
too busy anyway.
Yeah, he's not gonna have any control over that. So I think they're gonna put their trust in him to create something that will be true Star Trek and appeal to the fans, both story-wise and in terms of visual continuity. That's just my best hope of hopes that I can hope for, because goddamn, they can't have another flop or anything like that. I mean, Star Trek Beyond was okay, but I mean, come on, it didn't really do what they wanted it to do.
Oh, it's the best Star Trek fan film that's ever been made.
I I think it's really weird. They talk about this a lot with the Star Wars films, like how like the last three films are considered, well, not the last, I think the last one, The Last Jedi, was considered a flop, but it made like billions of dollars and it's still making money. And it's just funny to me that like, I think like, you know, franchises that have like a longer lasting appeal, like Star Trek's not in any danger of going away. It might go into quiet periods of like 5 or 10 years or whatever. But there's like such a huge following for both Star Trek and Star Wars that like, how can you really consider them flops if they make even like, you know, $1 billion? And I guess the return on investment time frames, they're looking at it from a corporate standpoint of like just a year. But I remember like there was a time, maybe I'm just making this up, but Hollywood didn't really care. Like if a movie made back its money in 5 years, that was awesome. Because, you know, and again, like these Star Trek and Star Wars properties continue to make money constantly. It's not like they ever stop, you know? So it is weird whenever I hear that like a Star Trek film is a flop. It's like, it seems to me like people in Hollywood have the wrong perspective about these franchises.
Nemesis was a flop. Because Nemesis
I mean,
didn't make enough money.
Depends on your perspective. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I get what I get what you're saying. It's
Solo
like,
was the flop. Like the movie cost $300 million, it made $150.
But the franchise can carry a few flops until they become profitable. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
No,
like there's so much profitability
it's
all around.
We live in a world of
it feels weird
now.
To call it a
And
yeah, I guess we do.
I think it's important for a studio to make back the money they spent and more, because they want to directly invest that money into the sequel rather than injecting like a new you know what I mean? If you're spending $300 million, you want to make
I'm not
$1
business
billion.
savvy.
Me neither. But it makes sense to keep on injecting money that comes from the same franchise, because if you have to constantly pump money into. But no, what you're saying is very valid. The troll statement of Star Trek is dead will never be valid. Star Trek will not die. It will never go away. Nowadays in the industry, movies don't they don't go away. Like reboots almost don't even exist anymore. We just make sequels 25, 30 years later. We're making sequels, and then we just keep these franchises alive, and now they keep going. Star Trek started that.
Yeah.
Just
awesome.
saying.
But it's true.
But
well, maybe some people would say James Bond might have started it, but you know, it was among the first.
James Bond is awkward because I can't figure out if they're reboots or not. Like, is Daniel Craig? Is that a reboot, the Daniel Craig one, or is it because it's all part of? I think that
there's a. I like the James Bond series because for some reason, like Doctor Who, they just work even if they don't make sense. They deliver exactly what you want them to. So like, yeah, it's a little confusing that there's
Bond
like so many
space and time traveling aliens.
But yeah, I get what you're saying about James Bond. It doesn't make sense.
Dr. Bond.
And it. I'm not an expert on Bond, but I know that like there's a theory that 007 and the name James Bond is a title given to an operative of that stature. So like 007 is like a rank that you receive, and then that alias of James Bond. So who knows who the person really is?
I'm gonna have to put a nail in your James Bond theory, because the new movie disproves that. Because
oh, okay.
No,
good. I haven't
I mean,
seen the new movie. Sorry, okay.
I'm not spoiling anything. There was a character in
the
the movie. She's replacing James Bond as 007.
Yeah, she is 007, but she's not James Bond.
And people.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
People.
Well, she couldn't have the name James. Well, I mean, you could. I have a friend before Michael Burnham. I had a friend named Michael who's a girl. So
they also explain in a what's that movie? Skyfall that's his adoptive name. So. I get what you're saying.
I'm saying there was a
way
theory.
to make the all the changing bonds make sense, but yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's not an in world truth. It's just a theory.
Oh yeah.
That some
it's cool for what it is, but I like the fact that they're actually giving the 007 mantle to other people, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So if James Bond
that makes
dies in
sense.
this movie, she can continue on, and yeah.
It gives me hope that one day I can be unfit James Bond, unfit 007 rather.
Guys, I'll be right back. Okay,
Alright.
just 1 second.
No worries. Bringing it back to Star Trek, because we
Oh, do you want to wait for PJ?
no, he doesn't
Okay,
deserve
sorry, Captain. Sorry.
it. He leaves and it's a loss. God damn it! I've ejected him from the conversation. He's gone. I will never invite him back. In a year's time, when I do episode 3, he won't be considered. He'll be snubbed.
Oh my god, that's terrible. You're the worst.
I am. Would you want to see this movie that he's doing take place on a ship with like the traditional crew again, or on a space station, or do you think something else entirely, just a bunch of people on a planet, Star Wars style or whatever?
I'm open to something really like high concept and new. Like it'd be really interesting if they went off in a totally different direction that we've never seen before. Like maybe I don't know, just as an example. This is not my favorite example, but the first thing that comes to mind is like maybe doing a story about a science research operation of some kind, and like, you know, they run into trouble and they're cut off from the Federation and they have to figure out how to like MacGyver everything to get out of the situation. And meanwhile, there's like this, you know, if you want to like, I would also love it if it like kind of like followed a Star Trek the motion picture idea of like there is a threat, but it's not like, you know, it's an existential threat or whatever, but it's not necessarily like your typical villain, you know, ha ha ha, I'm here to destroy Earth. You know, it's more like, you know, like how V'ger was just
that's
a bigger
what I love
threat,
in
you know?
well, V'ger is good, but I also love the whale probe in Star Trek 4.
Right,
It's kind of like
exactly.
it's
That's
probing,
a great
it's
example.
trying to find the aliens. It's trying to find the whales. Sorry, it's not here to destroy Earth or kill everyone. It's just a crazy floaty thingy doing its thing.
That's what I would love. And you know, and so if you're gonna highlight like a new, you know, what it would be cool is like, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly, but I think you had a bad reaction to it. But like, I really love that show that Katie Sackhoff did. What was it called?
How was that?
Do you know the Battlestar Galactica? She played Starbuck.
I haven't seen
and
Battlestar
it's on
Galactica.
Netflix. I know, but hold on, sorry. Well, feel so bad for.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
It's called.
It's not Mother.
Here,
It's the other one.
No, well, Mother was good too.
I know you watch all of Netflix's sci-fi.
I do. I really do.
There's wait a minute. There's Lost.
Another Life.
Another Life.
Another
I was
Life
gonna
is
say Lost
called.
in Space.
So like a team. Yeah, like a research team that's sent on a mission on like, you know, somewhere just cut off from the rest of Star Trek. Would be cool. And then but they're like, you know, again, they discover an existential crisis and have to solve it. So it'd be pretty cool, in my opinion.
I like the one guy from the motion picture. You talk about the motion picture when V'ger and the big cloud of doom kind of approaches. It destroys a space station initially, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's this one guy. He's in an EV suit, floating on the outside, and it cuts to this.
He bumps into the camera.
Well, it cuts to the space station. The space station is destroyed, but we never see this dude again, or this person, or whoever it is that's in the suit. And I've always thought you could make a movie about him just because he survives, right? The space station is destroyed. V'ger carries on, but he's now alone. Like, he just watches V'ger go by, watches the space station become nothing, and then he's still just floating there in the middle of space.
I really wish you would write your ideas and send them. I know they don't take submissions, but I think you should just bombard CBS with letters, because I don't know if I feel that's a great idea for a movie, but I think you would. That would be an awesome concept for a short trek.
That's a
and
short
we
trek,
mentioned you actually. We mentioned you on Starfleet Boy the other day because
really?
I thought that because we were talking about the short treks and how like
hold on. This is a crossover event. We're talking about Starfleet Boy on Trek Chat.
Yeah, but anyways, I think that's like stuff that short treks should be exploring and seeing what sticks with audiences.
Well, you know what? Actually, the short treks, I feel like that's what I would like them to do these kind of things. But then you would have to really get the costumes and I know that we're going back to the aesthetics again, but if you really want to make this story work about this one guy or whatever, you have to go and get the suit that he had in the movie. You have to do Vija aesthetics like they were in the movie. You can't tweak it. You have to do it as it was. And that's not something that I think the short treks have a budget to do necessarily.
Yeah. I think Star Trek needs to have someone running it that's into some what I would call slow trek, like treks that don't have like a 2-week time budget, like, you know, with unknown actors who are just like, you know, PJ and you and me, like we could be the actors. No one's gonna care. You know, like we're not gonna need to be paid a lot, just like enough to do a year's salary, and then you make the short trek like perfect. You know what I mean? You hire one tailor instead of 5, and that tailor will take like 3 months to do it instead of a week, you know, like those kinds of things, so that you can go low on your budget, but it just takes a longer time to produce it, you know what I mean? So you save money.
What do you think the budget of this movie is going to be?
What's that?
I've been back for like 10 minutes.
Welcome back.
Oh, have you? What did you hear? Did you hear my idea about the motion picture dude flying? Do you like it?
Yeah. It's like
that's why he wasn't speaking. That's why he was just sitting there
out there in space. What's gonna happen?
It's gravity.
Nobody will
Star
see
Trek.
that.
Anything can
No,
happen.
he gets rescued. He gets rescued by a cloaked Romulan vessel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
No, Romulans to get a cloaked, and then you could, and that would be a way to show Romulans before they came back. Like it would be a cool thing. Like this guy gets sent off to like an interrogation camp or prison or something.
I want a Species 8472 movie. I think they deserve a big screen appearance. They deserve like a high quality render, big screen TV, big screen kind of experience there. I want to see them.
I don't think I've met them formally. I know who you're talking about, but I haven't seen that Voyager episode yet. They're like in fluid space or fluidic space or something like that, right?
They're the menacing ones. You'll see them.
There's already a completed script for an upcoming Star Trek movie, which is not going to be directed by Quentin Tarantino, but he was involved in it, and he says if they ever end up making it, and you think they should, that he'll come back and, you know, consult or whatever, or help with the editing. But here's the thing.
Oh, neat.
What?
That script's been that's a Kelvin Timeline script. No. That's the script that they wrote before Beyond.
The Quentin Tarantino script that he collaborated with J.J. Abrams, there was no confirmation any way what timeline it was set in. In fact, you can there's audio of Quentin Tarantino. There's an interview. I'll try to find the link and give it to you later, where Quentin Tarantino just goes off and how he doesn't get the Kelvin films, and he doesn't like them.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And that's on Nerdrotic. What is it?
Somewhere, and actually, J.J. Abrams says the same. He's like, yeah, it doesn't make sense. He's like, I don't get it either. Like the guy who directed the film, right?
They need people explaining this shit to them. All right, someone needs to.
But the rumor,
I feel like Tarantino's a smart man.
The rumor about Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek film was that it was going to be somehow involve the Enterprise C and deal with the events of yesterday's Enterprise. Now that was a rumor. I have no idea how true that was. But what if Noah
It's not true. It's just because that's his favorite. He quoted that as his favorite TNG episode. So I think people kind of ran with that and said, "Oh, it's gonna be like this."
No, yeah, he didn't. Yeah, there was no confirmation of what it was about at all from him in any way, shape, or form. And you're exactly right. That's where the rumor came from. But what I wanted to say that what if Noah Hawley looks at that script and wants to do something with that script, or maybe merge his idea with that, and maybe him and Quentin Tarantino at some point later on could collaborate, because
I feel like he has his own ideas. This dude's coming in with his own.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but there's already a completed script. They're gonna start writing the script for his movie in April, because he said in the interview that he has to finish with Fargo season 4, and that I'm just throwing it out there, like maybe he can take some influence from that script, or even better, Noah Hawley's little film gets made that's, like the rebirth of Trek on film, and that further inspires Paramount to say, yeah, let's make that Quentin Tarantino one now. Because Quentin wants them to make it. He said it in a recent interview. He's like, of course he's going to say it because he helped write it, but whatever.
I'm really confused why a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek is not just like being done.
No.
He's such a great director, in my opinion. It's like it would be neat also for it to be his 10th film. It would have been amazing as both an achievement for.
He
Star
never
Trek
said
and
he
him,
was
I
going to
guess.
direct it, though. A lot of people just assume that, and he confirmed recently. He's like, no, I'm not going to direct it. Yeah, he thought about it, but like he never really said he was. But he said.
Well, he's finished his career.
He's going to do one more movie, and then he's going to move on to writing novels and whatnot and all this stuff.
He considers Once Upon a Time in Hollywood his 9th and final film, and he's going to do what he's calling an epilogue. He wants to do 1/10th movie, which is like an epilogue to kind of bookend his career.
Yeah, that's 10 films.
Because he said something very, very real, very human. He wants to go off and do his have a family.
That doesn't make
have kids.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood his last film. His
second to last.
His last film is going to be whatever it is, and then he said in interviews that he's going to possibly go into TV and just writing screenplays and teleplays and all this stuff, writing novels.
Imagine Tarantino writing a show.
I want to read his first novel, because that's what he says he's going to do. I'm going to be like in the bookstore buying that shit.
If I'm not mistaken, he already directed an episode of ER. I remember that was a big deal. It came out when I was like young.
He's directed multiple episodes from TV shows.
Wouldn't it be cool if he directed an episode of Star
Trek? I really
like
like Quentin Tarantino. I think he's a cool guy.
Say again, sorry? Can you?
I said, just that I really like Quentin Tarantino. I think he's a cool guy.
Maybe he can direct an episode of Picard season 2.
I'd love that.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. I think it's not the story is too serialized though, because I think the shows that he's directed in the past are mostly very episodic shows, which means he can do like one self-contained kind of episode. So unless they have kind of a standalone episode in a sense, I don't think
there was
he'd
a
come in and do that.
CSI episode or Law and or some kind of one of those Law and Order or crime shows that he directed that I watched, and then I found out at the end he directed it. I'm like, that I had no idea. That has nothing Quentin Tarantino-ish in there at all. He's very willing to, I guess,
to adapt his style.
And I think he uses TV as a way to experiment, which is great. I mean, like I think it's important to be able to try different things, right?
Absolutely. I have a question, because you guys are pretty much on the same side on this. You guys reckon that they're not going to go for a Kelvin Timeline film. You guys pretty much agree that the Kelvin Timeline is probably ended. Is it not safer in regards to the aesthetic and in regards to like not offending or shocking fans or getting details wrong? Is it not safer to make something in the Kelvin Timeline rather than trying to adapt to Prime? Because if you do Kelvin Timeline TNG era, no one can like say, oh, that's not good, or whatever. God. It's just
Are you serious? If they ever made a Kelvin timeline TNG film, and like people would just, that would be the death nail. That would piss so many. I mean, certainly some people would like it, but recasting like
Not recast. No. In the era.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily recasting of the characters, but just in the in that time period, in the TNG time period.
Yeah.
But in the Kelvin timeline.
I don't know.
I don't think you should retire. I don't think you should retire the Kelvin timeline, but it could definitely become like the mirror timeline or mirror world or mirror universe, whatever it's called. But like whereas like you can visit the Kelvin timeline from time to time, like in a like in a show or something like that. But you don't have to like keep telling those movies. I think a lot of the actors involved, like they're trying to recreate something that I think is not ever recreatable, which is like you had the original crew follow Star Trek through, even though they had other projects in their career, like William Shatner and team went all the way through until Star Trek 6. And it's like, I don't know if like the actors are that invested from Star Trek, and they lost Anton Yelchin. So like that whole Kelvin experience, I think, has had a lot of hardships and just built in to be like, it was built in to like be just like short term anyways. I don't think they ever intended it to go on forever, like Star Trek Prime or whatever you want to call it timeline is or whatever, like I think it'd be like great to be like that.
I have my fingers crossed that like even if we never hear about the Kelvin timeline again for years and years, I really do have my fingers crossed that when all of these actors are friggin' 70 years old or 60 years old, they all come back and do like a fourth or like a final Kelvin timeline film where they're all old.
That actually, you know what? That wouldn't be bad. Like, I mean, years down the line.
Just years. Just let them live their lives, do their careers, do everything else that they have to do, because they've all got massive careers, all of these people, right? Let them all do that. And they're all fantastic actors. And then bring them back.
I'll do you one better.
Old.
For some, like after 10 years and we've had 18 new Star Trek shows, at the end they say, why don't we do one last show that involves the Kelvin guys, when they're very old. But yeah, whatever. It is a good idea though. But I think there's a couple of reasons why a Kelvin film is not viable. Starfleet Boy said it, Anton Yelchin, the heartache, and it's they did a trilogy, and it's kind of like, yeah, let's end it there. And the fact that Beyond didn't do so well. I mean, it made more than its budget, but it didn't make more than its budget plus its marketing, so it actually lost money. So, and the fact that, I don't want to say there's like a ton of hate for the Kelvin universe, but Into Darkness is just, and Bad Robot, and
it was so well received.
What, Into Darkness?
So well received.
By
People
whom?
loved it. Everyone.
Really?
I loved Star Trek. I loved Star Trek 2009. But for Star Trek, personally, I remember in my group of friends, like I definitely don't think we're like, I think we're not like the average Star Trek fan. I think we're more of like a extremely like what's like the term, nerdy, or like, no, I don't know what to say. But anyways, we're like an extremist form of Star Trek fan. I guess, I don't know. But that group of us, we were just like, the movie was going really great until the ending where Spock starts screaming and goes on an angry rampage. That just felt like so wrong. Like, from just the perspective of like, I didn't care what timeline it was. I was just like, this doesn't make sense for Spock's character. So it lost me at that. But otherwise, it's a great movie until that point. And I feel like there was like many people that I spoke to that agreed with that, or some people like lost it at con. They were just happy to have like a new villain called John Harriman or whatever his name was. That was fun, and then like some people were just like, oh, I did not want this to be a con.
The moment Scotty or something says he's got like 72 torpedoes, like they loaded 72 new torpedoes, you're like, oh, well, they're doing con again. People next to you that aren't Trekkies, they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, there's 72. and there was 72.
Yeah,
on
it
the
was
button
no
in the
secret.
bottom
I
of
actually
day.
knew it was a con. I knew about the con thing like way before I was even speculating about
Yeah,
it.
J.J.
So
Abrams
yeah, the
straight up
con thing
lied
wasn't a
about that,
surprise
by the way.
again to that kind of. I know he does that.
horrible.
I feel like
He's
I feel like
horrible.
if I were faced with that kind of pressure, I might lie about it too. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like a child. Oh, we've discovered your secret. You've given another identity to Khan, but it's still Khan. No, it's not.
It's the
Yes, it is. It's Khan. You'll see.
he can.
Oh, it's Khan.
He
Oh,
can
yeah.
use the "it's just a movie" card, and everyone's got to accept it because it's true. It's just a movie, guys. I lied about a movie. I'm sorry.
Well, I know now more than ever that I am completely anti-Kelvin movie. Except for, I can enjoy the first and the third one. Like, I think Beyond is a nice little homage to the actual original series. It feels very old school for some reason. But there's a lot of things in it that are very bad. I don't like Idris Elba in that movie. Like his...
You don't even know it's Idris Elba. It's so different. I love Idris Elba as a performer, and it's not his best.
It's
performance.
cringy, yeah.
I agree.
They wrote that script in
but
what, 3 months,
I
was
think
it?
that
3
they
weeks. I forgot. They wrote it in a very short amount of time. They were pressured, so pressured that they were building the sets. They hadn't even finished writing the script. So like Simon Pegg said that they would receive, while they were writing a script, they would receive calls like, "We need to build a set. Give us something to build." And like, well, build a planet or build an office or build this because we're gonna have this in it. I'm just grateful because
I think that
what's she called? I forgot her name. Oh, I feel so bad.
Jayla, isn't it Jayla?
No,
J-Lo? No, I don't know.
Avasarala
Jayla
from The Expanse.
I love Avasarala. But to kind
I
of
forget her
piggyback on that a little bit more, what PJ said, I think that like the third one kind of redeems the trilogy, if you will, a little bit, and because they kind of hit their stride, and it does in many ways it does feel the most like Star Trek original series esque of, even more than 2009, because 2009 was a lot of like it was a lot of glitz and glamour, and this one kind of, I feel like they hit their stride for sure. They were settled, and so if they do another film and continue that tone, it would be pretty cool. But again, you're always going to be going up against I think for the original series, the films are like their high point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all the actors were amazing, everything. So you're always gonna, like, those Kelvin films are always gonna be like compared to that, and especially I feel like,
and I think Beyond,
yeah, exactly. And it's like those are already
Beyond,
so good.
out of all the Kelvin films, in my opinion, Beyond has the best last 20 minutes. Like, that is like what goes on in that movie in the last 20 minutes is fantastic just to look at, and it has a really nice sentimental ending with, like, he finds out that Spock died, and it's kind of a very beautiful bookend to that trilogy. And that's another reason I don't want them to continue it. I think it's fine the way it is. Into Darkness, I have my problems with. I can enjoy it on a visceral level at times. I love the special effects in the movie. I mean, they're fantastic. But it's like,
you don't want J.J. Abrams to come back, do a fourth, and Daft Sidious had planned it all from the beginning.
oh.
You don't want that, do you?
No, I don't want JJ to touch Star Trek at all, or Star Wars ever again.
Tying it
I
back
really
to
like J.J. Abrams, so I don't mind. But I think that it is. I don't think he puts his full effort. He definitely doesn't put his full effort into it. I think he has other.
I
Into
compare
his
him
career?
to Michael Bay in the fact that when I walk into one of his movies, I know it's going to be
Absolutely.
schlock, but I know it's going to be visually stunning. You know what I mean?
it's gonna be visually stunning, but the plot, yeah, whatever. We can tie some things together later.
Got off on a tangent.
Noah Hawley, finishing off with this Noah Hawley. I haven't seen Legion. You'll tell me what you think, because Fargo, he made it very following in the footsteps of the original movie. It's black comedy, it's dark comedy, right? It is comedic, and I was wondering did he do the same thing with Legion, and will he do the same thing with Star Trek? Will he make it comedic?
I think I had a hard time keeping up with Legion because I had to prioritize my free time and I had to drop it. But I do think that what I saw was pretty cool. Like, I like the actor that plays the main character because he was on Downton Abbey. He played Cousin Matthew, and I liked him, so I was following it mainly for him. And I would love to go back and finish the show because, again, it was intriguing. Like, it definitely had like an interesting mystery or whatever. But as far as humor, I'm down for humor. But I think that Star Trek always does well when humor complements the science fiction rather than it being the focus. Except for in Lower Decks, which I'm excited about, where the humor is going to be the focus.
Judging by season 1 of Fargo, and after this, go watch the trailer for season 4, and you'll get a sense of his comedy style. And it's not
okay.
It's not really jokey. It's very natural comedy, and it's very witty,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Does he do a good job of like kind of making it seem like the Fargo show is a continuation of the kind of wit or humor that you have in the films?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
I think the show. I've seen all 3 seasons of the
Yeah.
shows, and it lives up to the glory of the movie a million times. I think it's fantastic.
Because I've only seen the film. I've always been afraid to watch Fargo because I was always like,
no, absolutely
what
not.
more can you?
This is
what
why
more can you do?
Well, this is why I'm so happy to see this guy attached to Star Trek, because if he understands and respects Star Trek the same way he does the Fargo movie when making the TV series, then we don't have to worry about anything.
That's a great point. That's a really good point.
Good.
Because, yeah, if he was so faithful to the Fargo movie and made a show that was virtually identical to something that 2 other guys directed, then if he's a hardcore Star Trek
The
fan,
Coen
then
brothers.
I would think that he would be one of these guys that he would. I honestly believe he would walk away if they started messing with him and saying no,
Probably.
you got to change it. He's like, no, this is the way it looked in this. In Star Trek, this is the way Star Trek looks. This is the way the L-cars look, and blah blah blah. And if they try to mess with him, I think he's going to be like, I'm going to walk. But I'm just.
And considering how involved he was in kind of every aspect of Fargo, including the music and everything, he probably would be so much like very involved with the production and all of the sets and everything in this movie.
Is that rumor? Do you think there's any truth to the rumor that Brian Fuller walked away or departed from Star Trek for similar reasons, where he wanted something a little bit that was more, I think faithful to the kind of time period, and then whoever
I don't believe that one bit. He wanted bald Klingons.
Oh, you don't think so?
He's
Well,
the one
bald
that
Klingons is
pushed
different
bald.
from. Bald Klingons isn't the issue. Like, I could see the Klingons shaving their heads during war. It was the radical.
It was the fact that they're a different species is the problem. They're a bald different species. They're not the same.
I've heard
species
contradictory information on that on exactly what Brian Fuller wanted to do. Initially, way back when he first started talking about it, he was on a podcast and he said that this new Trek series that he's developing, didn't say what timeline or what it was about. He said will be a reimagining of the aliens and the world, right? He wanted to do like an updated reimagining. That's true. But apparently, according to Robert Meyer Burnett, who's friends with Brian Fuller, the bald Klingon thing is something he didn't want it. I think this is my personal opinion. I think what happened was they took his idea of reimagining and said, well, we can't have. They thought he was going to like really reimagine, and they pushed it to a point where he wasn't comfortable with how different everything was, and maybe he left for that reason. I have no idea, pure speculation, but.
Right. Well, okay, that's a whole other conversation that I don't want to get into now.
Sorry, I went there. It just reminded me of that.
That's why I stress speculation.
When you said you think that
get the wrong idea, I think I'm spreading bullshit.
Yeah.
Like
I'll tell you what,
some bullshit YouTube channel out there.
We'll all know about this. We'll all know about this in 25 years' time when they release a documentary like the Travel on Deck for Discovery or whatever it is. Everyone will talk about it. final thoughts. Are you guys excited for this Noah Hawley project? And do you guys think it's gonna kind of happen? Or is it gonna be like the past, I don't know, maybe 4 planned next Star Trek, past Star Trek movies and just dwindle away? Like I mean, every Star Trek 4 didn't come out, and then they did Star Trek Beyond, but then the other Star Trek 4 didn't come out, and then now Tarantino Trek's kind of slowing down. Is this going to be the same? Or is it actually going to come out and they're excited for it?
I don't think it's going to happen. I think the world is going to end tomorrow. I'm so depressed.
Oh, wow.
No, seriously, this is a really good thing for Trek. I think he's the savior from heaven that will save all things and all mankind. And I'm using hyperbole there, obviously, but no, my instinct deep down inside is that he's gonna really do a great job and bring Trek back to the forefront of cinematic glory for a, not ridiculous budget.
Okay. What about you?
Well, based on this conversation, my level of enthusiasm for Noah Hawley being involved with Star Trek in some way has increased because I didn't really know much about him beforehand, except I did think that those quotes that PJ read earlier were super promising, and they definitely have the right tone from someone who I think could be a great Star Trek storyteller, leader, whatever you want to call it, director, showrunner, whatever,
creator.
So I do want, creator, that's a great word. So I would say that I would welcome Noah Hawley with open arms if I were in the capacity to make any of those decisions. But as far as level of excitement, I would love to hear a concept first to really truly get hype about it, because it all depends. But I do agree that whatever he comes up with will be, it has the marks of being interesting. So I guess I am excited.
All right.
What was the other part of your question? I forgot.
Well, do you think it's going to come out?
Do I think it'll happen? Oh, I can't.
Fingers crossed.
I can't even. Fingers crossed.
All right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with me, guys. This was amazing. Finally, episode.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening. I hope that I'll be able to make episode 3 before next year. Maybe not, because there's so many shows coming out in 2020. But yeah. All right. Live long and prosper, everyone.
Peace.